It is time. Here we are. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Lonely Friday. Welcome to the loneliest show on the internet. Welcome to the one and only Sam Roberts Now, where we not only enunciate loneliness, but we celebrate it every single day. Well, just today, really. But if you want to contribute to tonight's show, go ahead and super chat in. All super chats will be acknowledged, as is the rule here on Sam Roberts Now. And we have just a tremendous amount to get into. No hot dog tonight, not even on the frozen screen. He's still seeing the Far East. He's in Japan right now, and he'll be back. I mean, bro, within 2 days in Japan, 48 hours in Japan, the kid lost his luggage and broke his arm. This is the type of guy. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I didn't create this character. He just exists, and he'll exist for all of us again, hopefully in a week or so. And I can't wait to talk to him. Because, I mean, in the most hot dog moves of all hot dog moves, 2 weeks ago, this kid says, GTA 6, something is going to be announced this week. Something, or I guess he's technically said it 3 weeks ago, with the bet coming up 2 weeks ago. Something is going to be announced within the next 7 days. Mark my words. 2 weeks ago, we get to that day. What happens? Nothing is announced, and the dog is topless. He shows up and sings Chocolate Rain with no shirt on 2 weeks after humiliating himself. Less than 2 weeks, 10 days. After humiliating himself for all of your enjoyment, as if Rockstar was aware, as if they were just waiting for the hot dog bet to be cashed. Boom! As soon as it's done, they actually announce it. GTA 6 is announced as a thing. Now, this is how excited we all are for this game. All they've done is announced that it's a thing. There are literally no details. This logo right here that we're looking at, this is not the logo of the game. This is not a screenshot from the game. This is just what somebody made. Because GTA 6 has finally been announced. And the announcement was, I'm looking up right now, exactly when GTA 5 came out. I should have written it down, but I did not. Grand Theft Auto 5 is a 2013 action-adventure game. 2013, it was released on September 17th. So 10 years and 2 months ago, GTA 5 is dropped. 10 years and 3 months after the release of this game is when we're going to get a trailer. This was the entire announcement. This is what got everybody excited. And these are people like, I know people like me who aren't like active gamers, that aren't sitting there buying a game, you know, every single weekend, every single time a game comes out. These are maybe people who haven't purchased a game in 8 years because of how long it's been since GTA 5 came out. But this is all we got. This was 2 days ago. Rockstar, they put out a series of tweets. They also released something on the Rockstar Newswire. And they said, we are very excited to let you, I bet you should feel how we feel, to let you know that in early December, we will release the first trailer for the next Grand Theft Auto. Now, they don't even say GTA 6. They say the first trailer for the next Grand Theft Auto. If they do some horse you-know-what and drop a trailer for like GTA 5 stories or like a spit, because, you know, they used to do that. After GTA 3, they did that. After GTA 4, they did that. Where they would have like spin-off games, whether it be Vice City Stories, San Andreas. They had a whole bunch. I mean, and these spin-off games were great, but we weren't waiting 10 and a half years. We weren't creating a generation of people between these games. The first trailer for the next Grand Theft Auto. We look forward to many more years of sharing these experiences with all of you. Of course, they say many more years because that announcement was made to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Rockstar Games as a company that was really built on this GTA franchise. Grand Theft Auto 1 comes out, and it came out for PlayStation 1. I got it. It was awesome, but it didn't even take advantage of the graphics on PlayStation 1. I mean, it basically had Nintendo graphics. It was like all aerial shots. You were looking, it almost looked like a GPS map, but not even as good as most GPS maps are now. And you'd have these little pixelated cars running around, or you would get out, and it would just be like a little pixelated person, you know, like Mario almost, except not head on, overshot, way up, no real detail. And then you'd either get like a gun or the flamethrower was the best. You get a flamethrower, you'd see the monks walking down the street, you'd flamethrower them. The graphics weren't great. The story wasn't great, but it was fun. That made all the difference in the world. It was fun. Grand Theft Auto 2 comes out. It's very similar to Grand Theft Auto 1. Slight improvements in the graphics. GTA 3 is the first game that came out where it was like more what we're used to now. That kind of open world. I'm playing as this character. I can go shoot people. I can go steal cars. GTA 4 changed the game again. And then GTA 5, of course, was a revolution. They're in LA. You can get on the highway. You can go spot to spot. So we all lose our minds because 10 years and 3 months, we've got an announcement for a trailer. Now, we know nothing, right? There are rumors, and this is what the fake logo is based on. There are rumors that the game is going to take place in Miami. There are some rumors that it's going to start in Miami and then expand. Like, we can't even get... There were leaks. I want to say, 2-3 months ago. And we still have no kind of clarity on what this thing is going to be. Because depending on what you read, some people say, wow, it's going to be the most expansive map that they've ever done by a mile. Right? You're going to start in Miami, but there's going to be multiple cities. And then other rumor reports are like, it's not going to be that big of a map, but it's going to be much more dense. There's going to be a lot more, like you can go indoors. It wasn't that much indoors in GTA 5, 10 years and 3 months ago. There wasn't that much indoor activity. Now, there's going to be a map that won't be as big as you think, but there'll be so much going on in it. Nobody has any idea. We're just assuming it's probably Miami. I mean, it's probably not going to be New York or Los Angeles. They just did both those cities. And so you go back and say, well, what else have they done? Vice City Stories, obviously everybody loves that. It's like Scarface the game. So they're going to make it like that. And video games have come a long way. I've been playing Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2 comes out not 10 years and 3 months after Spider-Man 1. We got Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2 since GTA 5 has come out. And they added Queens. Not only do we have Manhattan, we can go to across the river. We can go to Queens. It's incredible. So they've got a lot to live up to. I mean, speaking of Spider-Man 2, it was like $70 or whatever to buy that game. That's another question people have about GTA. How much is it going to cost? Are we looking at a game that's going to cost $60, $70? Are we looking at a game that's going to cost $100, $120? I'm sure they're going to have some kind of deluxe package that everybody's going to think that they need to get. What's going to happen to GTA Online? I think this is high speculation. This is put your tinfoil hat on and get conspiratorial. But some people believe that one of the reasons why this game has been delayed so much is because they've been making so much money off GTA 5. The GTA 5 online user base is still huge. That game is getting updated all the time. There are people who are, doing their little micro purchasing. Ooh, these game companies, they love micro purchasing. And I don't mean buying the guy from Dirty Jobs. I mean micro. So is that going to stay alive? Are they going to incorporate it into GTA 6? Are they going to shut it down and restart a GTA Online community? I don't know. It's going to be a risk, right? It's going to be tough. I think WWE 2K did that. People weren't happy that they shut down the online support for the last game because they wanted everybody to port over to the new game. But the last game was 10 years and 3 months ago. So I never got into the online thing. I like just existing in the world. But even from Rockstar Games itself as a company, the open world genre, technology, whatever, not only has it been vastly improved by games like Spider-Man, but when you look at like Red Dead Redemption, people love Red Dead Redemption. And one of those is because you can ride your little horsey across all the Great Plains. The world is so large, it's expansive, everything looks good. I don't know, man. Maybe they're going to emphasize the online portion of this game when it comes out as opposed to waiting a while. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll figure everybody will buy it at first, and then we'll get everybody hooked on the online thing. There are rumors that Joe Rogan's going to be in this game on the radio. That you'll be able to, it's going to be one of the radio stations. It's just going to be Joe Rogan podcasts. Wouldn't it be wild if they're original? Like if Joe Rogan has just been cutting podcasts this whole time. Like it's not his library. He's just been cutting original podcasts to exist within Vice City or wherever this game is taking place. And he's got guests on it that are relevant to the game. You know how back in the day, all the radio stations, Laszlo was doing all those. He was a genius at them too. He had radio personalities, commercials, the whole thing that were specifically about the city that you were in, whether it was Liberty City, whether it was wherever, San Andreas. And it revolved around characters that existed in that universe and situations that existed in that universe. What if Rogan, if he actually is going to be one of these radio stations, has been cutting podcasts with people from Rockstar as he's hanging with the mayor of Vice City or do it? Because it would make way more sense if Rogan exists in the game. It's going to make way more sense to have podcasts that are exclusive to whatever universe this is in, as opposed to just taking podcasts that already exist and putting them in this game, because this game doesn't exist in the world that we live in. Because if it did, you wouldn't be able to do any of the fun stuff. You can't. I don't know, man. I'm excited. But what if and what if they blow it, right? What if they go but it's going to take place in the 1940s. And you're like, the 1940s? Why did anybody want a GTA from the 1940s? I don't know, man. I don't know. But I'm very excited about it. I can't wait. Until this thing comes out, until the trailer drops, until any of it. Because then we're going to be able to do this whole thing again. Once the trailer drops, we're going to be able to do this whole thing again about how, okay, let's analyze scene by scene and everything. It's going to be great. I'm going to be able to add it to my repertoire. Spider-Man 2, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Although it's also the trailer comes out in December. What does that mean? Even optimistically, people are going fall of 2024. If they really want to knock people off their socks, knock your socks off. They go hey, here's the trailer. By the way, the game's out for Christmas. That would be nuts. If they drop the trailer and the game's out for Christmas, now everybody's going crazy trying to get copies of this game, even though you don't have to get copies of the game. You can just download it on PlayStation. If they go, here's a trailer for the game, by the way, on December 24th at midnight, so the 25th, Christmas Day, you can download it in a PlayStation store. Or what happens if they sign it exclusively? It's PC only. What? No, but I think realistically, we're not getting it for Christmas, obviously. I think realistically, it sounds right? Everybody's kind of pointing towards around September of 2024. And that'll make it so that the first wave will be everybody that buys it right away for the fall. And then once everybody finds out how cool it is and it becomes the game that you have to have, because that's what GTA 5 was. GTA 5 was that game that whether you played games or not, there were people who didn't have PlayStations. They didn't have any video games at all in their house, that they're I have to buy a console so I can get the game. And that, I think, is what will come out for Christmas. And that'll be uh, what the sort of Christmas offering is for GTA 6. I would imagine that there will be like decked out PlayStation 5s that you buy the console and it comes with the game. So like customized GTA PlayStation 5 so that way you can get it for somebody or for yourself that doesn't even have a system, but just knows that everybody has, at that point, been waiting for this game for 11 years. They couldn't even put it out this September. How clean would it have been if GTA 6 had come out in September and they were like 10 years removed, a decade. 1 decade later, here's the next game. Look at how much progress has been made in 10 years. But instead, the best we're going to get is 11. 11 years? Who does that? I don't know. But I think that's what I do think that we'll get. I think that's kind of what the rollout will look like. Game comes out in September. Everybody thinks it's awesome. Maybe it draws up a little controversy, right? See if we can. We don't really do that anymore. Everybody, now it's like, some comedian said something, or there was some tweet from 7 years ago or something like that. You don't find that often that popular, but I guess it could happen. If they're crossing all their T's and dotting all their I's, hopefully they'll get a nice little wave of controversy where it gets to be very rebellious. What's wrong with the kids these days? That Grand Theft Auto. Well, now we got to buy it. Who knows? We'll see. It'll be fun. B-Herb thinks that GTA 6 is the next victim of woke politics that ruin established franchises. That's a wild take, bro. All we have is an announcement that a trailer is coming in a month. We got announced that we're getting a trailer in a month, and we already have this assessment of it? All right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I have no idea. It's a wild take. It is a wild take. I see all your super chats coming in wanting to talk about this. We'll get to all of them. Trust me when I tell you. We'll get to all of them. I'd love to revisit the conversation at the end of the show so we can get to all these super chats. But before we get there, we really are living in a time of true miracles. If you didn't believe in religion, now's the time to start, he said sarcastically, because not only is GTA 6 officially happening and being announced, but our beloved actors are returning. We're getting our acting back, because what are we without our actors? A bunch of truth sayers? Never. Our actors are going back to work. After 118 days on strike, it was announced late this week that a tentative agreement has been reached, and it's only tentative because it hasn't fully been signed. But the boys and the girls are going back to work. All the actors are grabbing their lunch pails, putting their hard hats back on, and going back to creating what is truly the greatest American export: entertainment. They're going back to work. The movies are starting. The television shows are starting. They've struck tentatively. The board, I guess, or whoever it is, has to give their final signatures on it. But they will. They will. It's pretty much locked in. A 3-year deal that sends everybody back to work. It's a bummer, because I felt like the longer this went on, not only was it looking more and more likely like we get The Rock and John Cena ready for WrestleMania, but if they weren't making movies, we might get Batista too. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because the writers are now back to work and the actors are now back to work. It must have been kind of great for the writers, because it was almost like substitute teacher time, I would imagine, for quite a while. They were like, well, we're not on strike anymore, so there's no real pressure on us. But we don't have to go back to set. We can just write and pitch and sell. We don't actually have to worry about getting on set or writing the next thing, or there's no actors. There's nobody here to perform the lines that we're writing. And now they're back. like I said, 118 days on strike. And, it was about AI. It was about residuals. I guess they got to the point where they realized that every so often we have to restructure because technology changes. And clearly we're at this point where technology is changing. We were just talking within the last couple weeks about the fact that streaming service prices are going up and physical media is disappearing. They literally had to restructure the deal because people got obsessed with physical media. During the DVD craze, everybody was like, well, I got to have this on DVD. I have to have a collection of 8,000 DVDs. I was part of that. Nobody's buying them anymore. Nobody can find them anymore. So now it's like we have the streaming services, but the streaming services are like, we don't know. Well, I guess now they probably have some ads, most of them. But at least in the beginning, there weren't ads on them. They're not like physical media. You're buying one movie. It's pretty easy to figure out you get a percentage, X percent of every time this disc gets sold, you get a percentage of that. When it comes to the streaming services, they're like, what are we just going to keep paying royalties just because it exists on this service? The whole idea of the streaming service is that they have everything. And so I think they didn't really want to pay serious residuals as long as those things were going to just live on their servers. But if that's how people are consuming content, the people who make the content probably have to make some cash off of it. Like Spotify is paying per stream, right? So I think that I mean, of course, I'd rather them not be on strike than be on strike. And they do have a point. Clearly, technology, you can't wait until technology is there and then decide, okay, it's time to, we got to figure out how we're going to get paid off of this because they'll just keep rolling, right? They said that they've signed a tentative 3-year deal. They're getting consent and compensation for AI. I think that was part of it, right? Like they panicked because they realized how quickly AI was going to be able to come in and just scoop everything up. And the studios are ready for it, right? They're always looking. I mean, look at, they're Jurassic Parking over here. How do we use the technology to help us? They're putting money into investing in new technologies that are going to allow them to do more cheaper and faster. But they're not sharing all that information. They don't benefit from sharing all that information. So now they've got consent and compensation for AI because I think that they would have loved the opportunity to just use AI to create background actors, but then you're getting paid $50 to be a background actor for a day and your face is just used forever. There would have been great documentaries about it if they actually pulled that off and they paid somebody $50 and you just ended up seeing them in movies for decades until eventually it became like a thing. Like you noticed them in every shot and then you want to know what's the story behind this guy. But that's the way Hollywood's been forever. They're going to get away with whatever they can get away with. There are horror stories from I think the woman who played the voice actress who did the original Snow White. Disney was so obsessed with it being special, from what I remember. I don't know if it's true, but Disney was so obsessed with it being special that they auditioned a ton of people. They finally found somebody that nobody knew, and then they made them sign a contract so that they could never do any voice work again. So that Disney would not only hire them to be the voice of Snow White, but they would use that voice in a perpetuity. And they wouldn't be able, this person could not go and voice, not only could they not go and voice another Snow White, they couldn't voice anything. Because Disney is we now own the sound your voice makes, the tonality, everything. Which is wild, but that's why unions and stuff exist. That means that actors can start promoting their movies, which I think is so necessary because I think that's one, the problem is, Killers of the Flower Moon, for example. I have not seen Killers of the Flower Moon. And it's not because I'm afraid of long movies. In fact, I think that nothing shows a person's idiocy like a fear of long movies. But, I mean, I got a lot going on. I got a bunch of shows. I got a bunch of jobs. I got a bunch of kids. I had to figure out half a day between doing all my jobs and watching all my kids that I can sneak in and watch the latest from Scorsese. And so the fact that most of the press about this movie has been that it is long has been tough. And I think the reason that that's been what most of the press about this movie is because the actors haven't been around to promote it. You know, like this movie has like one of the most incredible casts ever, right? It's got what's his name from Breaking Bad in it? It's got not Bryan Cranston, but the guy who was in Fargo too, the series. It's got Leonardo DiCaprio. It's got Robert De Niro. It's got a ton of people in it. But none of those people could go out and do shows promoting it. I mean, yeah, people are intimidated by the length of the movie, but if you had Leonardo DiCaprio out there doing some interviews, if you had Bobby D out there doing some interviews, there's plenty of people in that movie that could be out there getting people excited, but they couldn't be out there getting people excited because part of this strike was we're not going to act, but also part of the gig is promotion. We're not going to do any promotion either. And I think that cost them. And I think at the end of the day, right, it wasn't just the immediacy of everything. I think that the studios probably realized we got to wrap this up before summer hits. Before we're supposed to go and do summer movies, we got to make sure this is done. Because otherwise, we're going to be releasing special editions for the summer. Or we better hope that Taylor Swift can put out about 9 more concert movies because we're going to have nothing this summer. And that's probably part of what SAG AFTRA realized too, right? That they're like, look, they went on strike in July, right around the time that everybody was getting psyched for Barbie and Oppenheimer. So just as they're bringing back, like if I'm not mistaken, they went on strike during the premiere of Oppenheimer. If I'm not mistaken, the stars were there to walk the red carpet. And just as they announced it, they said, whoop, right now we're cutting off all these interviews. Sorry, can't do any interviews. We'll be here. We'll watch the movie, but that's it. I think that's a little bit strategic too. They realize, like, we got to start striking just as we're showing off that we can bring back movies. We've got enough stars, enough directors, enough big movies that we're going to start putting butts in seats again. And then the strike ends, you know, just as they've got to start filming summer movies. Now, it's still, you know, Hollywood is Hollywood. It's not going to end up being great all the time. A day after the strike is announced as being over, I feel like it was insulting the way they did this. Just as news breaks that all the movies can go back into production. Night Court, the remake, is going back into production. Warner Brothers announces, by the way, we're not putting out Coyote versus Acme. Now, I didn't even know Coyote versus Acme was a thing. But, I mean, you couldn't do that. If you had done this a week ago, 1 week ago announced this, and at least people would assume, oh, well, you know, Warner Brothers is probably in a spot where they're losing money. Warner Brothers needs to, oh, yeah, you know, they got to declare some losses. Right? Because that's what this is. Warner Brothers is the same studio that shelved Batgirl. And it's not even like we don't want to go to the expense of putting it in theaters because Warner Brothers owns HBO Max. They could put it on the streaming services if they want to. But if they need to take a loss and they don't think they're going to make a profit off the movie, this strategy is, even though a ton of people worked really, really hard on these movies, we're just going to not release them. That way, at tax season, if we spent $30 million on this movie, we could just, that all becomes a loss. We can just declare loss, so that way we can make some profit on these movies over here and still get to write these other movies off as a loss because they weren't going to make a profit anyway. And I don't know, man. I don't know, but I also don't know, like, if they weren't, like, what changed that would make it so that these movies aren't going to make a profit? Like, when you look at Coyote versus Acme, it was filmed over a year ago. It's been done. It's not like they even are trying to save money by not bringing people back to the set or anything. It's done. Could release it now. Well, I don't know if it's done being edited, but it was done shooting a year ago. James Gunn produced it. John Cena's in it. Will Forte's in it. I don't know if it's like live action or if it's animated. I think it was maybe like one of those like Roger Rabbit type of movies where it's like half animated and half real. But if I think, because it's not the Roadrunner versus the Coyote, it's just about the Coyote. And I think it's like, I think the premise was something like the Coyote sues the Acme company because he keeps getting hurt by all this Acme product, which, I mean, that doesn't strike me as something that immediately goes, oh yeah, there's a 2-hour movie right there. Like, that feels like a short. Feels like maybe an SNL sketch. But apparently they had a movie, and they had John Cena, and they had Will Forte, and James Gunn is the producer. And maybe I'm just sitting there trying to advocate for my boy John Cena. But look, I mean, James Gunn also did the Peacemaker stuff, right? So clearly James Gunn knows how to operate in the John Cena verse. But it ain't happening. We'll never see it. And I wonder if there are other movies like that. Is this a new thing where they're taking full movies and just not releasing it? Like, I know there's always been footage. For instance, like, and eventually the footage might come out on like a DVD. Remember DVDs? On a DVD bonus feature or something like that, right? Like the legend was always that Eric Stoltz was the original Marty McFly. And they filmed a good chunk of the movie with him. And it just wasn't working. So they got rid of him, and they brought in Michael J. Fox. And forever, there was just footage of Eric Stoltz playing Marty McFly somewhere, you know, on a shelf. And they had nothing to do with it. And then I want to say eventually they put it out. But I'm not 100% sure. I think they might have. We at least saw stills. But I think we saw the footage. But I don't know how many full-length movies there are out there in lost footage. Like, and I also don't know the degree to which they're done. Like, this is done being filmed, but did they actually go through the whole editing process? And to what degree is it done? Is there just a finished Coyote versus Acme movie that's just done and we'll just never see it? And could this be, you know what it could be? It could be a scenario where they put it on a shelf now. They can declare a loss on it. Although, I don't know. I mean, if you declare a loss on it, can you put it out later? Because I feel like because these things are public, it's known that they're out there. It's known that Batgirl is out there. It's known that Coyote versus Acme is out there. So there's going to be a market, just out of pure curiosity, even if the movie absolutely stinks, just out of curiosity of what did they put away. People are going to want to see it. If you put it out way, way later, and you wouldn't have to put it out in theaters or anything, there would be a curiosity. B-Herb says there are a ton of movies that were shelved for years or even permanently. I want to know. You could tell me that, but I don't remember it happening this frequently. I don't remember hearing about it all the time. And if so, I want to see some movies that have been on the shelf. I want to see movies that were never supposed to come out. John Francis Daly movie 52577 was made like 15 years ago, but just came out like a year ago. Yeah, and that The Day the Clown Cried right? That what's his name? Lady. What's his name? The original Nutty Professor. I'm blanking on his name right now. Not Eddie Murphy. But that where like it was like a clown that performed in concentration camps or something like that. I see you Google Nutty Professor and it just says 1990. You mean the 1996 one, right? Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis. Yeah, like that exists somewhere. But again, everybody who's seen it is like, yeah, it's the worst movie ever. This movie sucks. But everybody wants to see The Day the Clown Cried. Why? Because we're not supposed to. It's the same thing I was talking about with GTA 6. You got to create some kind of rebellious nature to it. Everybody's saying Jerry Lewis now. Jerry Lewis. Exactly, Jerry Lewis. But you want to create some kind of rebellious thing to it, right? If they just put out a box set, and I don't even know what the format would be at this point. Maybe you just put it out as downloads on Apple TV or whatever streaming service. But you go, here's all these movies that we just been sitting on. I would want to watch every single one of them. But I don't know if legally you can if you declare a loss on them. Douglas says, Kevin Smith described how Prince has a whole vault of films. Ooh, I'd love to talk to him about that. I'd love to talk to him about what Prince has locked away. And how did he get his hands on him? Yeah. Yeah, I see Poodlerific says Harry Shearer supposedly saw it. There have been people that have seen that Jerry Lewis movie. But also, I mean, that's different, I guess, from like that movie didn't come out because Jerry Lewis didn't want people to see it. That movie didn't come out because it was like, yeah, this was a bad idea. I'm a clown who performs in like concentration camp. This isn't going to work at all. That was his like moment to be Robin Williams, where he transfers over to being a dramatic actor, but he went way too far. Way too far. These are just like regular movies. Like there's nothing, they're just the ones that ended up, and I don't know how that happens. I don't know how those decisions are made, you know? Maybe they get scared when something like The Flash does poorly. I was going to say horribly and poorly, and so I almost said horribly, but I caught myself, which is real good news for me. But also, like, just by looking, like, no matter how good The Flash is, even if you got Michael Keaton Batman in there, you got to know Ezra Miller is a problem. You have to know everybody's fed up with his nonsense. John Cena. The Coyote. James Gunn. Will Forte. Feels like a winning combination, at least on a streamer or something, but I don't know. Yeah, I'll look up Kevin Smith Prince after the show because I do want to see that. By the way, speaking of looking things up, don't forget, we dropped a ton of content this week. So if you are not yet watching the Satisfying podcast, new episode of Satisfying went up yesterday morning. It's on the new YouTube page, youtube.com/@satisfyingpod. The YouTube username's @satisfyingpod. It's me. It's Nicole Biggins. And I thought that Nicole and I were going to talk about the Sam Bankman-Fried story and about how he was found guilty because I'd never talked to her about it. And I was like, oh, I mean, I know it's kind of an old story, but what do you think about it? She never heard of that guy before in her life. She had never seen him. She had never heard of him. When I pulled up his picture and she had no idea who he was, but was horrified by his ugliness, it was maybe the funniest thing I've ever seen. So check out the new episode of the Satisfying podcast. And if you want a fascinating story, it's not funny, but it's absolutely incredible. I interviewed Angela Lee, former MMA fighter for One Championship, and that came up here on the Not Sam channel. Just about the fact that she retired as atomweight champion to pursue mental health and helping people with mental health and the struggle that she went through and everything. It's a really compelling story that she's got. So if you get a chance after tonight's show, you can go onto my YouTube channel here and watch the Angela Lee interview. Or if you want to have some more fun, some more laughs, go over to the Satisfying Podcast YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe to that page. We are treacherously close to 1,000 subscribers over there. So check that out. Do me a friendly, subscribe to it, and and enjoy all that stuff. I'll tell you what, a lot of theme park news has been coming out. I was reading all about the merger between Six Flags and, I guess, Cedar Fair. They own like Dorney Park and a whole bunch of other stuff. I didn't know that one company owned all those theme parks, but then they showed all the logos of the parks that they owned, and they all have the exact same font. So I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But much bigger news than that merger is the fact that articles came out this week citing Reddit posts from people who spoke with what they thought and considered and called first-hand information about what is going on in Disney parks. Apparently, there is a much bigger than we once realized defecation problem at the Disney parks. Now, Disney is notorious for keeping a tidy park. In fact, legend has it that to test the groundskeepers, to test whether or not the people are actually doing their jobs well, there are, how like in stores they have secret shoppers to make sure that all the people that work in the store are doing the right things? Apparently in Disney, there are people who leave like a penny or like a wrapper or whatever it is on the ground, and they know exactly where they left it, and they go back after 30 minutes, after an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, and see if it's still there or not. And if it is still there, that's your ass. If it is still there, whoever was supposed to be cleaning it is in a lot of trouble. So the fact that weird stuff happens at these parks and we never hear about it is entirely possible because they're trying to keep everything as tidy and clean as you could imagine. And this, by the way, this shitting, I'll say shitting, in very, not only public places, but heavily, densely populated areas is becoming more of a thing. Like there was a story a month ago at New York Comic Con that people were complaining that somebody had shitted on the floor at New York Comic Con. Like it went everywhere. There were, not the shit stayed in the one spot, but pictures of it and articles about it went everywhere. That they said that, look, somebody just dropped a deuce in the middle of the floor of the Jacob Javits Center at New York Comic Con. Now, by the way, I did check the original article about that story, and they said there was an update to the article because nobody had come forward as the anonymous pooper. And they did say that upon full investigation of who the anonymous pooper could be, that they had not earlier considered that it may have been left by a dog. That there are people that get into Comic-Con, whether it's because they need a service dog, whether it's a bomb-sniffing dog that has the runs, whether it's some kind of cosplay-related dog. Maybe you think you're really cute. You dress up as Scooby-Doo, but you dress the dog up as Shaggy. What? Not Mr. Boombastic Shaggy. Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. Whatever, however you're doing it. They're saying it is entirely possible that the defecation at New York Comic Con could have been done by a dog. And for the sake of humanity, I truly hope it was, because I can't understand why somebody would do this. But apparently, it's happening at Disney as well. In fact, at Star Wars Rise of Resistance and at Avatar Flight of Passage, those are the two worst spots, according to the internet, for people publicly defecating. And that does make sense. If people are going to defecate anyway, those are the two of the most popular attractions by a mile. Last time I went to Disney World, it was a long time ago, but I got, a few years ago at this point. But it had to be like 4 years ago, maybe. But we got there early to get online for Avatar Flight of Passage. But even at the beginning of the day, we had to wait online for a good 45 minutes. And by the time we were at the front of the line, that sucker was 2 hours long. There have been people who've said that line's 3 hours long. Now, look, it has to be a really long line for you to have to just drop trow and defecate right there. But also, and this is something that hasn't been brought up across all these articles, you have to consider the fact Disney allowed a Starbucks in their park. And I'm just saying, if you get a cold brew at that Starbucks, and it's very possible because I did. Actually, I was at Disney World. It wasn't the last time I was at Disney World was like a year ago. I got a Starbucks then. I was with the children. That's why we didn't do the Avatar ride. But I sip my coffee, so it's okay. If I sat there with the cold brew and chugged it, I got to go get on this ride. Let me chug this cold brew. And then you get to the ride and you realize, oh my God, there's a 2-hour line. I didn't have to chug this cold brew. But you have a bigger problem than that, because what happens when you chug the cold brew? It goes right through you, somewhat of a diuretic, but a lot of times coffee doesn't want to go out the front end. It wants to go out the back end. We all know this. I don't have to go into gorier detail than that. You put a Starbucks on your property, you know damn well people are going to have their Starbucks and they're going to go to a very popular ride. What do you think is going to happen if they just chugged a cold brew and they're 90 minutes into a 3-hour line? No end in sight. Can't get off the line because I already put 90 minutes in, but I'm not almost there. Probably got another 45 to go. What am I going to do? I also wonder, is this people going alone? Because I feel like if you're part of a couple, or you got your family with you or something, even a friend, just a buddy, hold my place in line. I'm going to go use the bathroom. There are bathrooms at Disney. I mean, I don't know who gets hit that quickly, like out of nowhere. Probably shouldn't be going to theme parks at that point. There's a hallway, they say, at the Flight of Passage called the Poop Hallway. One person wrote, I'm in the queue, which is line. If you're not from England and you call a line a queue, you're not tricking anybody. You're not cultured or intelligent. I'm in the queue for Rise of Resistance at Disney World. Somebody let their kid take a dump on the floor, and then they just walked out and left it. WTF. I mean, listen. If you spent all this money to go to Disney World, odds are, if you're at Rise of Resistance, the parent wants to go on that ride just as much as the kid, if not more so. That feels very much like a ride that you convince your kid it's going to be the coolest thing ever because you are going on for yourself, but you want to use them as an excuse. You don't want to miss it. You know, when these kids tell you they got to go, you can't just tell them to hold it. They're little kids. They don't know what they're doing. They got no control. I mean, you could probably get some napkins and clean it up. One Reddit poster who claimed to have worked at Disney World in Orlando described the guests leaving their body waste on the premises as body fluids no longer bother me after working at Disney, they wrote. Let's just say that the attraction I work at has what the cast ended up dubbing the poop hall. This is Flight of Passage, I think, the Avatar ride, because of the number of times guests have gone in there and pooped. Not because there's a bathroom in the hallway, but because the hallway, you could just duck off the line. I mean, there's got to be a bathroom close to you. If you're ducking off the line to go into the poop hall, it says Canadian freaks call it a queue too. It's not a queue, it's a line. If you're ducking out of the line to go shit in a hallway, you can't just find a bathroom. You clearly have somebody saving your spot. And then they start doing their history. Ken Powman and Lynn Barron, the authors of Cleaning the Kingdom, Insider Tales of Keeping Walt's Dream Spotless, which I guess this is why people need to sign NDAs. The janitors at Disney World wrote a book, wrote that spotting human waste triggered a protocol known as Human Code H. I would have called it Code SH, but that's just me. Human Code H. The fact that there is a protocol tells you that there's a problem. I have got to tell you, I've been to Disney World a few times. I have not seen this be a problem. And I do think, though, that if this is happening more at theme parks, like Disney, and this is happening at New York Comic Con, it's got to be a problem with human beings. And the way that the human race is now, the way humanity is going, I wouldn't be surprised if people have just gotten to a point where they're more comfortable defecating in public than they ever have been in history. And if that's the case, if that's where we're at as people, that's a terrible thing. But if you look around, doesn't it feel like as human beings, we're more shameless than we've ever been? Like, it doesn't feel like we're getting into an era. Like, it feels like, the Middle Ages, everybody was very prim and proper. Even in, the early 1900s, everybody still had all that European influence. But the more America has declared ourselves as a sovereign nation, right? We're now 200, come 26, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. We're about 3 years out from 250. That's wild, bro. How many of you remember the bicentennial? We're about 50 years removed from the bicentennial. That puts us 250 years as not only a country, but the number one best country of all time. 250, we start number one at day one, and we get to year 250, and we stayed on top of the mountain. That's pretty great. But that said, the longer that we go on as number one, the more the sort of standard rules of society, manners, the stuff they really love in Europe, we feel like it doesn't apply to us, right? The Canadians are very well-mannered. Why? The French. Let's call it what it is. Why are Canadians so well-mannered? Because of the French. They've embraced the fact that, yeah, they're Canada, but they're very French. Especially, I know you'll tell me this. Montreal is not Canada. It's just Montreal. But we all know. We all know. When we meet a Canadian and they're very polite, it's probably because of the French. Now, you'll say this, the French are very rude. No. The French are rude to Americans. The French are not rude to each other. Why are the French rude to Americans? Because we gave up on all of that. We're not allowing anybody to dictate the way we behave in society. And that's why we're maniacs. We have to be maniacs. Because if we're not maniacs, what are we? Europeans. And what's worse than being a group of maniacs that shit in public, fight all the time, and elect celebrities as president? You know what's worse? Not being American, baby. That's the cost of being number one. We're a little uncouth. And we might shit in the hallway at Avatar in Disney. If you tell me that, look, you're going to live in a world where people shit in the hallway of Avatar at Disney, but you get to be American, I'll take that deal. 10 times out of 10. 7 days out of the week. That's the way I'm living my life, and I hope it's the way you're living your life. You let me know how you're living your life. Right now, you can super chat in. I told you we're going to get to all of these super chats. I mean, Dan Damick, it's not a super chat. But he's saying, but they gave us a giant statue. We took that statue, bro. Thanks for the statue. We'll keep it. Thank you. You're not getting, your influence. But we'll keep the statue. Give us your tired and your weak. You're shitting in Disney World. We'll turn them into rock stars. Super chat in. Don't forget to not only like this video, subscribe to our channel here at Not Sam, but once the show's done, go over to the Satisfying Podcast YouTube channel at Satisfying Pod, youtube.com/@Satisfying Pod. Subscribe to that channel and watch the show that Nicole Biggins and myself are doing. If you even remotely like this show, like even if you're at a point where you're like, well, I mean, I don't hate it. Like, I'll listen to it. If you've been listening and watching this show for more than 3 minutes and you haven't clicked out of it yet, you're going to love Satisfying. Trust me when I tell you. All right. Super chat in. Every super chat will get acknowledged here on Sam Roberts Now. Let's get to our financier, Six Crow, the guy that keeps Sam Roberts Now in business. Six Crow says, Sam, what a great week of content. I appreciate you, buddy. 2 great interviews and a very satisfying podcast. That's right. We had the Angela Lee from One Championship interview here on Not Sam. We had the Megan Morant from WWE interview on the Notsam Wrestling Channel, which is phenomenal as well, by the way. And we've got the new Satisfying podcast on the Satisfying Channel. Bro, when has anybody been able to figure out a way? I'm across 3 channels now. 3 different shows, right? 3 different collections of content across 3 different channels. Not Sam Wrestling, Satisfying Pod. If you want to be involved in the world of Sam Roberts, all 3 YouTube channels are now a must. Once again, the Super Chat has been doubled, and so is the game. Ooh, I love this. Okay, Lifeboat, these 4 pop stars, and then F, Marry, Kill the survivors. Ooh, wow. Brittany, Christina, Kesha, Rihanna. Well, man, this is tough. That's really tough. Christina Aguilera is getting kicked off the Lifeboat, unfortunately. And that would be a really tough decision, especially if this is the dirty era, Christina. I'm going to hope it's like the, Moulin Rouge or post-Moulin Rouge era Christina Aguilera, because that'd be a little easier. Dirty era Christina Aguilera, it'd be hard not to just full-on marry her. But that's just one specific era. In terms of bodies of work. Because we're going by bodies, and by bodies, I mean bodies of work, you sick puppy. Christina Aguilera is getting thrown off the Lifeboat. We're left with Brittany, Kesha, and Rihanna in an F, Marry, Kill situation. I mean, Brittany, Kesha, Rihanna. If Rihanna isn't catching the F, I don't even know if you understand how this game works. That's, the easiest layup that I've ever possibly heard. Do you understand the evening? It would be unforgettable. Now, I would have to have the whole evening because I'd have to go more than once because the first one, I would imagine, seconds. But after that, it'd be a thrill for everybody involved. And then the Marry and Kill, oh, man, that would be really painful to do. But I would, unfortunately, have to end the existence of Kesha. Because there's no doubt I'm marrying Britney. Britney is our queen. I'm 100% marrying Britney Spears. Because I don't think she's crazy. She just doesn't have the right people around her. I'd save her. And unfortunately, Kesha, even though Praying is one of the greatest songs ever written, and Tick-Tock on the Clock, But the Party Don't Stop was great. I'm sorry, Kesha. These are just the rules of the game. Bill Tetley, Billte. Sammy Sweetheart, last professional broadcaster, let them all in. You said it best, Bill. You said it best. B-Herb76, no Laszlo, no interest for me. Yeah, the first... Laszlo has been not working for Rockstar Games for years and years and years and years. But he was there when the last GTA came out. Lehman, my man Lehman, love you, buddy. GTA 5 came out so long ago, it was on the PS3 console. Has come and gone since the last game. Yeah. It was on the PS3. A console has come and gone since the last game. A full console has been eliminated. Like they won't make... there might be a version for PS4. But there is no GTA where the best version is PS4 or the original version is PS4. I guess they probably made a GTA 5 for PS4. But I know what you're saying, Lehman. You're 100% right. Poodlerific. Sometimes when I can't sleep, I listen to the classics, like the Joe Matarese material. Did you ever find out why Bonnie thought Sam got their podcast fired? I would imagine that Bonnie was hanging out with the wrong people at the time that probably telling her things that weren't true. I don't know for sure. Drippy says, will Jim and Sam be in GTA 6? I wish. I wish. But like I said, Laszlo, our Rockstar Connect was gone. We don't have a Rockstar Connect anymore, so can't do anything. B-Herb, Google GTA 6 frat boy, and you should see articles stating how everything in GTA 6 is being toned down to not offend people and be more inclusive. Yeah, I mean, we'll see, right? I don't know for sure. I mean, the article says that, but I've had, there have been so many articles that have said so many different things about what could be going on in this game that to just decide, well, this article says it's woke, so I better be broke. It's like, okay, I guess. We'll see. I'm not saying it won't be. I'm saying here's the information we have about GTA 6. We're getting a trailer next month. That's the beginning, middle, end of the information that we have. Lehman says, from what I understand, and obviously I'm not an expert, once a movie has been declared a total loss, they can never release it. That's what I would think. Just by tax laws, they have to go back. But I don't know. PHWOFL. Sammy, did you see the difference in the courtroom artist depictions of Sam Bankman-Fried and Chip's girlfriend? They did her dirty. I saw that, well, they didn't do her dirty because she's not a flattering-looking person. But the handsome Sam Bankman-Fried courtroom sketch is, I believe, a fake. I was looking, because that's really one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it. But I could not find any corroboration that that was a real courtroom sketch. So I do think that the handsome SBF courtroom sketch is a fake. Because at first I was with you, and it was a wild story, but I don't think it's true. Six Crow says it was dirty. Oh, the Christina... He said it was dirty era Christina Aguilera. Well, guess what, Six Crow? She's floating somewhere in the Atlantic now. I already threw her off the boat, dude. It doesn't help at all that you tell me that now. I already threw her off the boat. She ain't here no more, dude. Information I could have used yesterday. Thank you all for hanging out. You're all such wonderful, fantastic, and great people. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Hit like on this video. Leave a comment. And go over to the Satisfying Podcast channel at Satisfying Pod and subscribe there too. Enjoy the show I'm doing with Nicole Biggins. You got 5 styluses. You might as well use them. I'm going to cheers with you later.